international break is over and the Premier League is coming back with some massive matches. That's right guys, this is Premier League Predictor where we take on each other in predicting the Premier League scores. If you don't know how this series works, please check the rules out on the screen right now. It's worth getting involved in. We'll start off by looking at Game Week 28 results and yeah, I did pretty poorly. I only got 2 points overall out of the whole game week. Admittedly, there were less games. There was only 7 games in this game week as opposed to 10. But frankly, I could have had 200 matches. I still don't think I would have got many more points. So, you know, people let us down. Spurs let us down. Chelsea let us down. Yeah, it was not a good week for me. Let's see how you guys got on. No one scored massively this week, but Ben did top the table with 7 points. Marbles and Stuyben coming in second with 6 points, and Carl, a new player, coming in with 4 points, getting the third spot. You've then got Timo, Wilf and Annie on 3, and then Jack Leas and myself down on 2 points. The less we talk about that, the better. If you guys want to be involved in this week's predictions, all you need to do is, as I'm talking about my predictions now, just type yours in the comments. It is that easy and you'll be entered into being on our subscriber leaderboard next week. But do me a favour, make sure you predict them in the same order I do. It makes my life a lot easier. And watch the video the whole way through because I know some of you aren't, because frankly some of you predicted games that weren't even happening last week. And whilst you're in the comments, please hit a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It'll be much appreciated. Game week 29 has got some promising fixtures. You've got Manchester City versus Liverpool, which should be a good clash. You've also got Newcastle versus Man United as well that looks spicy. The big news going into Liverpool and City's fixture is Erling Haaland is out. He's got a groin strain whilst on international duty, hasn't returned to training either this week, so it looks like he won't be there to face Liverpool. So if you've got him in your fantasy football team, please leave him there, give me a chance of catching you guys up. But as for the prediction of this game, I've gone for a Manchester City win. I think even without Haaland, it might actually make them better because I think they'll go back to playing the football they were used to playing last season, and I think it'll be a convincing win over Liverpool. I know that Liverpool have had a decent run of form recently, but Manchester City, in my opinion, are a different beast. I've gone for 2-0 to Manchester City, a straightforward home win. Fulham have lost their last 2 games, however they were against Arsenal and Brentford of which was a very tight fixture indeed. They're of course going to be out without Mitrovic, who lost his cool in the Manchester United FA Cup tie. So they are going to be a player down up against Bournemouth. However, I don't see Bournemouth having enough to see off Fulham. I think the form guide for Fulham is very misleading because of the teams they've been playing recently. So I've gone for an away win here. I've gone for 1-0 to Fulham. It'll be a tight one, but I think they'll make it. There's only a point between Nottingham Forest and Wolves in what is essentially a relegation battle at this point for these teams. They've got very similar form guides as well. I've actually gone for a draw here. I think it's going to be one of those fixtures that neither team wants to lose, so they might sit back and kind of sit on a point at the end of the day. I've gone for 1-1, a score draw here. I just don't see there being any light between these two teams. I think Crystal Palace were wrong to get rid of Patrick Vieira, and I think it's going to continue that way. Roy Hodgson coming in is not a step forward for Crystal Palace, and I think that Leicester City are going to capitalise as a result. With that being said, I've gone for Leicester to win 2-0 away from home at Crystal Palace. Honestly, I do not know what they were thinking, getting rid of a young, promising manager and replacing him with Roy Hodgson. Leeds could have won their last 5 games in a row. I still think that I would be going for Arsenal here. Arsenal, for me, are head and shoulders above most of the Premier League at the moment. I think the only teams that could cause Arsenal an issue in a one-on-one would be Man City, Manchester United and potentially Newcastle on their day. Very much on their day with Newcastle there. Arsenal are leaps and bounds ahead of everyone, including Leeds United. I've put Arsenal to win 3-0 at home. Brighton and Brentford are neck and neck in the Premier League right now, even though Brighton actually have played 2 less games, of which, if they win both of them, they would be in a European spot. And I think that's Brighton's aim this season, is to try and cause an upset and maybe get a Europa League position. So I'm going to go for Brighton here. I think it'll be a challenge up against Brentford, but I think it's one that Brighton are up for. And I'm gone for a narrow win of 2-1. I just think it's time of this, like this time in the season, Brighton need to knuckle down, get these difficult points, and make sure they push on for European places. Chelsea and Aston Villa have the exact same amount of points in the Premier League. I never thought I'd be saying that at the start of this season, but Aston Villa have definitely turned it around, and Chelsea, well, they've been woeful, really. I feel sorry for Potter because, yet again, Chelsea are lacking a striker. They don't seem to have someone on the end of it that can put the ball in the back of the net. Havertz really isn't stepping up. Maybe after the international break, they should go in for Scott McTominay and put him up front after he scored 4 goals in 2 games, 2 of which were against Spain recently, so fair play to him, but I still want him to leave United. So Chelsea is a great striker. Please sign him, Bowley. Anyway, I've gone for a draw here, a score draw. I've gone for 2-2. I think these two teams are very even this season, and Chelsea definitely need to reset. West Ham versus Southampton is arguably a 6-pointer at the bottom of the table. With West Ham, if I go for them, they lose. If I go against them, they win. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle with this fixture. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 0-0 West Ham versus Southampton in an attempt to maybe score a point from a West Ham game this season. Honestly, every time I back them, they don't win. Every time I go against them, they win. So let's see if a draw works. It's a repeat of the League Cup final. We've got Manchester United up against Newcastle. Now, I've gone with a scoreline that heavily benefits one of these teams, but it's very much based on whether all players come back from international duty fit. Rashford at the moment looks a doubt for Manchester United. I believe Casemiro is fine, but is potentially still serving a ban, maybe? Can't remember. Eriksen looks like he's back fit, potentially could feature. I just think that Manchester United are a little bit above Newcastle now. Newcastle are looking at strengthening their midfield in the summer, looking at people like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Mason Mount. I think that Newcastle are just drifting away a little bit. They're just not quite where they need to be, and that's where Manchester United are going to capitalise and get some much-needed points. I've gone for Manchester United to win 3-1 away from home. I think that United have probably got this one in the bag. Cue that being a comment that doesn't age well. Everton versus Tottenham is an interesting fixture this week. You've got Harry Kane coming back from international duty as England's all-time top goal scorer. But then on the other hand, the rumour mill is absolutely churning around him, and he is basically looking like he's leaving to maybe join Manchester United or Chelsea. I don't think it'll be Chelsea with the Tottenham link, if I'm honest. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting. Not really sure what's going on with him and Spurs. So there could be a little bit of unrest, but I doubt the players really pay attention to what's going on in the news, if I'm honest. I've gone for a Spurs away win. I don't think Everton are going to have anything to compete with here. I've gone for 2-1 to Spurs, and I think Spurs will finally get themselves, you know, a little bit of a run of form. They've been doing all right recently, and they need to keep going after the international break. So here's a rundown of the Matt Ayres predictions for Game Week 29 in the Premier League. We've got Manchester City to win 2-0 at home to Liverpool. We've got Fulham to win away 1-0 at Bournemouth. We've got Forest and Wolves to draw 1-1. We've got Leicester to win 2-0 at Crystal Palace. Arsenal to win 3-0 at home to Leeds. Brighton to win 2-1 against rivals Brentford. We've got Chelsea and Aston Villa to draw 2-2. We've got West Ham and Southampton to draw 0-0. We've got Newcastle to lose 3-1 to Manchester United. And Spurs to win 2-1 away from home at Everton. So there we have it. There are my Game Week 29 predictions for the Premier League this week. There are other games happening in the Premier League over the next week or so, but they are all fixtures from old game weeks that have been rearranged, so we're missing those out because otherwise it would be far too complicated to work out the scores and stuff, and I wouldn't have time to get the video sorted, let's face it. So we're just predicting the 10 games that are happening within Game Week 29. If you want to be involved, make sure you do get your predictions in the comments down below. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and like this video whilst you're at it to help this content go further. And I'll see you in the next one. Ben at the top of the table hurts a little bit. I can't believe we're getting beaten by an Everton fan.